Yeah,
I think
no.
this looks like it's like on. Oh wait, it's over here. It looks like it's on my wall.
Hey, maybe you're representing. I know this program is pretty cool. I don't know, what you guys would use at maybe a State Farm or just anywhere else.
Yeah.
But Streamyard is awesome. And for anybody who's using or wants to use Streamyard or wants to get into using like a Zoom type of feature, click the link in the bio and you could get your own Streamyard. I don't know if there's a percentage off or something like that, but it's a great place. It's a great place because like this, like we could record live and we could blast it to all over the place.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. I've never heard of it.
Yep. I got my little thing down here scrolling. I got my, like you
Yeah.
said, my logo. So it all works out very well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super fancy. So it is 9:31. People will roll in. But as people rolling in, if you don't mind, go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what you do, how you do it, and all that good jazz.
Okay. I am Aleka McDowell. My husband and I, we do flips. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We also own an insurance business, and then I do real estate too. So that kind of goes in with all the flips and everything. And yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what initially even got you, why flips for you? Why even get started with flips? And by the way, anybody who's watching, put your location below. Let us know where you're from, or if you have any questions already that you want to ask, just ask them. But Aleka, why even flips?
I think it's just one of those things like everybody always wants to do, and we were just one of those people, like you watch HGTV and you're like, that looks awesome. And it looks easy on HGTV. So I think that it was just something that was interesting. And then an extra like hobby that we could make money with. So, and we always are looking for extra streams of income. You're like that too. They say like the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So it's like, let's start another business.
Right. Okay, that's cool. So
Yeah.
just like, man, that looks easy and that looks fun and probably could make some money doing it, and decided to do it. So jumping into it. Interesting, because today you're going to talk about the 4 steps to avoid a nightmare flip. And just curious to know so people who are watching, they know who they're watching when you're about to give these 4 steps. How many flips guesstimation? Well, how long have you guys been flipping? And then how many flips have you done guesstimation?
Okay. I don't know that number, but
guesstimate. It's all good.
2 years. Yeah, probably almost at 2 years. So under 2 years. So our goal this year is 10. Probably total like 15 so far in like just under 2 years. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So there's somebody commenting. I can't even see your name with this with Streamyard. You have to like approve it. Just say your name so we know who's saying hi to Aleka and who's saying, hey, I need this right now. Can you see the comments as well?
I can see it, yeah, but it just says cool. Facebook user. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, cool. So that's a good amount of flips to just to start out as a hobby to knock out. That's pretty awesome. So obviously you've learned a lot of. Oh, that's Horton. All right, so Horton Rental Stays. He's a property manager here, short-term rentals. And I think he's getting into long-term rentals as well. But today we're talking about flipping, no buy and holds. Although you guys have tried your first buy and hold, right? Your first one with the short-term rental, I believe, was your first one.
Yeah. So we have 3 right now. So we have 2. So we have 1 duplex that is one side short-term, one side long-term. So we'll be able to compare those pretty well. We're going to look at like a year's data, I think. And then we have 2 others that are just long-term right now. And they both came with the tenants. So both of those are like in the past couple months, and the duplex was in July, I think. So within the past couple months, we've gotten all of them. So. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then with the ones that are tenant occupied, are you flipping those? Like you just wait until the lease ends?
No, that's not, at least not right now. That's the plan, is to hold on to them.
Right.
But we are like flipping minded. So we're always like, oh, we could sell these and make some money. Like that's
right.
So it's always an option, So we'll see. But
Yeah.
as of now, that's not the plan.
Right.
Rentals. So.
We'll see. So if you don't mind, start jumping into it. We have, let's see, I managed. Oh, okay, cool. So, and I'll just, so if you don't mind, start with number one and let's get started. What's the number one step to avoid a nightmare flip?
Okay, so I would say analyzing your best and your worst case scenario when you're looking at buying, and specifically focus on the worst. And that's kind of what you can like plan for. And if you're comfortable with that, then everything will go okay, you know? So if your best case scenario is you'll make 50,000, but then the worst case scenario is you'll make 20, then if you're okay with that 20, then like it's a good property for you. You know what I mean? So I think that we look at that. We run different comps. We look at what the lowest price it's going to sell for is, and then the best price it could sell for. We look at what the highest renovation costs and the lowest. So you want to look at those, like what's the worst possible situation, and make sure that I mean, obviously not the worst possible, I guess. There's always things that can come up. But
right, yeah.
Just plan for, you know, what could be if it goes all wrong.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you're breaking down those numbers. You want to see best scenario and worst scenario.
Yes.
What are some of the numbers or like, what do you even look at to even break down the numbers to know that you're going to make 50 or to know that you're going to make 20?
Yeah. So you want to look at the purchase price, the purchase closing costs, the repair costs and holding costs. So that's going to be like your utilities, your insurance, all of that. And then also your selling closing costs. And so we use an Excel sheet, and you can just plug those numbers in real easy. It has all of the closing costs in there already that are calculated pretty much exact, based off of like the estimated closing costs or the estimated closing price. And so it kind of spits out that number pretty simply.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Have you ever had one that just, you thought it was the least was going to be 20 and it went crazy? Yes. So if you don't mind, let's talk about that so we all can avoid that.
Kind of like number two though.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I wanted to go there with that, but okay, that's good. So you want to see the very best of a project, and that helps you. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been able to hit that top number?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it helps you hit your goals.
Especially with the way that the market's going right now. Like, so if you buy a house and then 3 months down the road, we have ended up listing a lot of houses for maybe 30,000 more than we thought, or something like that. Because the market is just going up like that. Right. So you can never plan for that to happen, but sometimes it does. And it's good. So
yeah, 100%. Do you put in agent fees on top of that?
Agent fees for the selling agent, the buyer's agent?
When you're looking at the numbers, like, is it going to go really good? Do you roll in like putting it on the market numbers in terms of like listing it numbers as well?
Yes. Yeah. So we take that into account. We basically put in like all estimated expenses. It is estimates in there. So like the holding cost, we don't know exactly, and we don't know exactly how long we're going to have it and everything. But like I said, we usually plan for a worst case scenario. Right. So we're looking at those numbers and we're like, okay, we're still comfortable with this. Worst case scenario, we'll make 20,000. So
have you ever had one that showed worst case scenario and you were like, man, we're going to make, I don't know, $4,000 on this one, but you still went ahead with it? Have you ever had one like that? Or do you, I guess where I'm going is like, or do you stick to the numbers so much that you take out emotion? It's the numbers that's going to drive if you should invest in this thing.
Yeah, so we definitely do stick to the numbers. So I think one of our first flips, we like our worst case scenario probably would have been like 4,000, but I don't even know if at that point we were like analyzing the numbers enough to know what it was, because that was like our first one. Right. But that was probably like the range in that one, but that one went well. So yeah.
Well, good. So let's roll into that number two then. What do you got? Number two steps to avoid a nightmare flip.
So I was going to say verify all information and specifically square footage. So that is one of the biggest things that I feel like I've heard stories, and we had it happen to us. So we didn't verify square footage. We were going off of tax records, and it was like 300 square feet smaller than we thought it was going to be.
Whoa.
Yeah, even our contractors were like, no way, it's definitely bigger than that. Like, just from being in it, you thought it was.
Right.
And so we had to list it like 30,000 less than we were planning. So that one, that wasn't even our worst case scenario. It was worse than our worst case scenario because we thought that the list price could be a lot more.
Right.
That one, I mean, we've never had one yet that we haven't been profitable on, but that one, I think we ended up like only making 6,000. So that was the lowest.
And what were you projecting at the 300 plus square footage?
I think we were planning for, it would have been like 30 or 40 maybe for profit.
Holy moly. So that just shows just how important it is to really verify your square footage. When do you do that?
So really you want to do it before you purchase it, because you need to know those numbers of what you're going to sell it for. And so that's, I mean, you should have someone measure it right away. Like when you first see it, or maybe right when you get it under contract. But yeah, and just verify like all the information, verify that the schools are correct, and, do all your inspections. Like we definitely hire inspectors, even though like we've done it before. We hire inspectors for everyone. Specifically, like termites are big. We've had tons of houses with termite damage, and we've had some that had termite damage. And then when you started taking out floors and stuff, you realize that it's way more extensive than they even thought in the inspection. So definitely get inspections for sure. We also had one time that had structure issues. So we got a quote for like $12,000 of structure issues. Wow. We were under contract at this time, or we might have still been like negotiating, hadn't like written up the official contract yet. And so the seller ended up taking it off of the purchase price for us. But if we hadn't done that and found that out prior to, then it would have been us taking the $12,000 loss,
Right.
So,
do you have a checklist that you go through for inspections just to make sure you cover it all, like somebody who flies a plane just doing a checklist before they take off?
So we have an inspector that we use every time. We use the same inspector, somebody that we know well, and so they know what we're looking for and everything. And we do a regular home inspection, and then we do a termite inspection, and then we usually also do a walkthrough with our contractors. So if somebody misses something, then maybe the other guy will pick it up, notice it. So those are like the three that we want to do for each one before purchase usually.
Right. It'd be interesting, and this is something I'm thinking about. It'd be interesting if somebody could, Francisca, you're calling me. You should be on Be More training right now. But it'd be cool if you had like a shadow value prop, like they could shadow you when you're walking the property with contractors, like people who are interested in getting into investing. Like there should be a shadow period. But I think obviously they would have to do something before they're able to shadow you, right? Because there needs to be some. And I'm not going to say it has to be money, but they'd have to do maybe a referral. If they give you a referral, but like, like, because walking through that, and as you go through and the inspectors telling you about some issues, you're walking with the contractors, you're like, hey, did the square footage come in? Like all of that's very good value for somebody who wants to get into investing. Now you're giving some great tips, but man, that'd be pretty cool. Did you guys shadow anybody before actually getting into the flipping world?
No. Nope.
Just jumped into
it. Yeah, we just did it. And I mean, so that would be good. Definitely a good way to learn. But yeah, we just learned from experience, I guess, for ours.
Yeah.
And for the square footage, we can hire somebody sometimes to do the square footage. we always hire the same guy. Or Hayes actually my husband bought the tool to measure it, where you just shine the light and it tells you the measurements and all that. So, so we can easily measure it too. So that's another thing when we're talking about like inspections and verifying information and all that.
Right, right. We got Flossie on LinkedIn that says, to shadow, you must have equal or some amount of training. That'd be cool. I just don't want to verify that, like send your application. But yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Or just show that you've tried to do something, right? Don't just try to jump and shadow. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So definitely square footage. If you were to name the top 3 things that you have to get right in order to not get a $26,000 hit or whatever, you would say square footage. What would be the other 2 things?
Probably the termites. Because that's come up in a ton of ours. And if you can verify that before, a lot of the times you can have the seller pay for it or give you a credit on the closing cost. So then it's not coming, out of your pocket. If you can verify it beforehand, usually they'll be lenient with that. And then number 3.
I was just going to say, because you could have leverage with that because they can't sell the home because their appraiser is going to want that fixed. But if they said no to you, eventually they're going to have to get it fixed anyways to sell the home. So it's good for you. Right. And that's good negotiating and be like, got to get it fixed anyways, either through me or through somebody else.
Right. And if they already know about the termites, and they kind of have to disclose it to the next person. So most of the time people are lenient with it. I mean, sometimes we'll take it because if we know the person or we negotiated this, and it just depends on the situation. Right. But yeah, sometimes you can definitely get the seller to pay for it instead of having to pay for it.
I love it. So you got measurements, you got termites, which are crazy around here. And then what would be the last one? Like triple check, make sure we don't screw this up.
Maybe foundation, because we have had 2 houses with foundation and that can get pricey. Right. But usually, so we don't have a foundation inspector every time. But it's just kind of whenever, if you see like a questionable crack or it comes up in the home inspection that there's something that is questionable, then definitely get like a qualified, we use a foundation company in the area, and they come out and inspect and give us quotes right away and all that. So that's another big thing, because like the termites, you can definitely have the seller pay for that.
Right. Okay. Before you move to number 3, anybody have any questions about the first 2 that Aleka talked about? Go ahead and type it out. Hit a heart if you're enjoying this. Share if you're enjoying this. This is how we're able to tell, just how well this is being perceived. So,
and I will say also, for square footage, it can go the other way. So we actually bought a flip because it was on the market advertised for like half the square footage than it was. So it had been on the market for like 6 months and it looked super overpriced. And I looked at the listing multiple times and was like, why is this house so overpriced? And then I started looking at it. I looked at the tax records. I think online it said it was like 1,300 square feet, but the tax record said 27. And we went and looked at it, and you can walk in and see it's not 1,300 square feet. So it can go both ways, because we bought a flip because it had been on the market for a long time and it was advertised incorrectly. So sometimes you can find a deal. So it can go both ways.
Wow. So let me get this right. You bought a flip on a mistake of maybe the agent. Was it listed on the MLS?
Yeah. Yeah, it was listed on the MLS. At this time I wasn't a real estate agent yet. So I don't know if the MLS listing was wrong or if it was like something on Zillow or what, but however it was listed as way smaller, like half than what it was.
So you just flipped the flip?
So it hadn't been flipped yet. No, we flipped it, but
I see.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah. And that's where, man, I want to get in. I want to go down. So, all right, let me know if this is one of the next 2. You always hear investors, not always, you do sometimes hear investors where they ask me, and maybe you get this question as well, should I get my real estate license?
Okay.
Is that one of your next two?
So
I know it may or
no,
may.
So number 3, I was gonna say, like have reliable professionals, so real estate agent and contractor and plumber and electrician and all of that. So I guess it can kind of tie into that, but I don't necessarily know if like everybody who's doing flips needs a real estate license, because first of all, like you have to have a certain level of like organization and like people skills. And I mean, it's not like hard or anything, but
different.
Yeah. And then also you do open yourself up to more liability. So if you are somebody who's flipping and you're going to cut some corners and you don't want to tell this person about the roof damage you know about or whatever, if you're an agent, you literally have to tell them, or they can sue you, or they can take your real estate license and all that. So for liability, you are like more liable when you become an agent.
Yeah, and how about just be a good person if you're not licensed? Like, just do the right thing. So
True.
that begs the question, why did you get your license then? And before you answer that, for anybody who is interested of like, okay, I'm thinking about becoming an investor and I'm thinking about getting a license, talk to Aleka. She's done it, right? Like she may be able to help you out with that. So, but why you?
So I got my license. Well, so when we started doing the flips and everything, I just wanted to be able to understand all the terminology and the way everything was working. And I wanted to understand all the steps of it and just know what I didn't know.
Right.
So that was my main reason to get the license. I didn't even know if I was gonna sell the houses or anything. I wasn't sure yet. But I wanted to learn and know everything I could to make sure that we were doing everything the right way, and just know what I didn't know. So
has it been worth it? I mean, did you went in with that mindset? Has the ROI been there?
Definitely, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
What did you learn having your license that you couldn't learn without having your license, that you would say?
Well, so I mean, a lot of things. So there's so many different things, but just trying to think of like a specific example for you.
Which of course I went off path.
Yeah.
So no preparation for that question.
So now I have like the real estate book that has all the information in it, and we can look up like, wait, how do you measure square footage, or do you include the space under the steps, or what, you know what I mean? Something like that. So that I'm like going back to the same topic we were talking about before, but just an example. So before we would hire someone each time, but now we do know how it works. And then, and there's stuff you can learn without having to do the class or get your license. You could buy the book and teach it to yourself, and that's fine. But I do think that you need to have a certain like understanding of the way that the transactions work. You need to know what due diligence is and due diligence period and all that stuff. I mean, that's simple stuff, but some people don't really grasp it. I think that just like everything, there's so many little things that I learned from the class that I would have never known if I hadn't gotten licensed. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for walking off the path with me and answering that question. I'm sure you've maybe even netted more since you're the listing person now and you get control of the commission side.
I think like last year, I mean, I didn't add it up, but we probably saved like 40,000 last year on flips from not using a different agent.
Right.
So it's definitely like an opportunity there, but yeah, I mean, I just don't know if it's for everybody. Like it is more work and everything. With us, it's easy because we have 2 people. So my husband and I do it together. And so he does I basically do the real estate side and he does the monitoring all of the repairs and everything like that. Right. I look up the numbers. I find most of the houses, run the comps, all of that stuff. So it kind of works for us because we each have our separate jobs.
Niches. Yeah. Yeah. You're a beast at finding homes too. All right. So number 3.
Yeah. So number 3 is reliable professionals.
Oh, that's right.
So,
that's right.
So yeah, your real estate agent, the contractors, that is so big, that you trust your contractors. We use the same contractors for every flip that we do. We don't like shop them, but they know that. And because of that, they'll give us good pricing, and they'll let us save money on this one. And then maybe the next one, they'll charge us full price or something like that. Like, we work with them enough that we have that relationship, and it just works so well. And I think that if there's something that they do that we feel like they didn't do the way we asked it or something like that, then they'll redo it.
Right.
They'll fix it. Because it's like we're business partners, we're working together on everything. So I think that's so important, to have people that you trust. I mean, you hear like the horror stories about somebody almost finishing a house, and then and then like 3 months goes by and the contractors haven't been to the house and they only have a couple little things to do or whatever. So I think it's really important that you have people that you trust to work with throughout the process. Yeah, whether it's a plumber, an electrician, a contractor, an agent, whoever it is.
Where do you find these people?
Huh?
Where do you find these people?
So actually the contractors that we use, we met when we first moved here. They quoted us on putting up a fence and painted our office. And so we've just been loyal to them. So they're loyal to us.
Right.
It's kind of how it is. So I would say for somebody starting new, maybe interview contractors or, meet with a couple different ones and whoever you feel the most comfortable with. But just make sure it's somebody that you feel like you can trust.
Yeah. And I would say, also ask the investor peeps in your community because they know, right? They know who to avoid.
Right.
and who's pretty good. And tell you what, you will run to somebody's like, listen, I ain't telling you my contractor, right? Because we don't want him to get too busy and now they can't serve us.
Yeah.
But that, I think, that would be great too, because they know the market. They know the market. What would you say is the top 3 professionals you should have in your back pocket ready to go? Definitely sounds like contractors. What are the other 2?
Contractor, real estate agent. So if you're not, unless you're the real estate agent, you need somebody who's going to run comps, give you numbers, and all of that. And then, I don't know, plumber and electrician are kind of tied.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. So if somebody needs help finding a real estate agent in their market, would you be able to help them out with that?
Definitely.
Cool. Reach out to Aleka. She's got the in on that stuff. And she probably, if she was interviewing or talking to that agent before handing them off, she knows what she's talking about. She's been in the flipping side. So if you are an investor looking for that agent, don't really know where to start, reach out to Aleka because she can help you out with that. All right, number 4, cuatro.
All right, so number 4 is expect problems and inspect everything. So that's kind of like 5, but I just wanted to include both of those. So expect problems. Stuff always happens. Like I was talking about before with the termites, you start pulling out walls or something and you find way more than damage than you expected or something like that. So you need to make sure you have a cushion in there for that. That's kind of what we were talking about with the worst case scenario and all of that. And then inspect everything. So my husband goes to our flip houses whenever we're working on a renovation, probably almost every other day. He checks on them all the time to make sure that and we trust our contractors, like I said, but if there's something that we ask for that to be, this color and that color, then he can be like, hey, before you finish, do it this way. Because it is a network of they have 30 people working for them maybe. And so if one guy tells the other guy who tells the other guy what he's supposed to do, sometimes things can get miscommunicated. And then, yeah, and I think that when you're inspecting also, you need to have like a certain knowledge for like the way that things work. Like, so same with I was talking about real estate, learning about real estate, but also like about construction. You kind of got to like know a little bit about how everything is made and the way that that the contractors are gonna do things, because then you can correct them if you need to.
Yeah, and you can call them out.
Hayes is really good at that. So he's always over there and suggesting them to do something an easier way or whatever that can, save money and time and all of that. So I think that's really important to stay proactive. We don't just like hand it over and then show up when it's finished. Like, we do not do that. We definitely check in a lot.
Yeah. There's people right now that you could hire, at least I know in this market, that if you do not have the time or you're an out-of-state investor, they do have people that check on those projects for you. Those
your boots on the ground guy. He can, check it or whatever, but somebody should be just making sure that things are getting done the way that they are planned to. So
okay, so things aren't getting done, and you've already given a warning to the contractor. You go back by and the contractor still hasn't, it's still like where it was essentially. Do you fire them? Is it another hard conversation? Is that a negotiating point? Like, where would you go with that?
So like I said, we really trust our contractors, and we have a really good relationship with them. So yeah, just another conversation for us. And they kind of, because we're loyal to them, they will, if they need to, stop doing another project to come to our house the next day and work on that, because they know we're going to be repeat customers and we're doing these big renovations that are very costly, and so making them a lot of money. Right. So I think that's all part of it. When we say something like needs to be finished by a certain time, or you know what I mean?
So you've never really ran into that because of the loyalty you've had with your contractor?
Yeah, I mean, we've had times when it's like, oh, you said this was going to be finished and it's not, and then they will power through. You know what I mean? They will do everything they can to make sure that it gets to where it needs to be, or something gets done. So we haven't fired our contractors. We've used the same contractors throughout, because we're just able to work with them on it. And, like I said, it's just the loyalty is super important, I think. So. Right.
Okay. And then what was that 5th bonus one that you said?
Oh, well, so I said expect problems and inspect everything. Yeah.
That's right. Expect and inspect. Yeah. That's a life thing too, right? Like, some people will build these grand visions on how things are going to happen in their personal and their professional life. But if you lower your expectation, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if you do to a degree, then what you go experience is going to be so much better, because you were kind of going in saying, hey, things may mess up and that's okay. So then if it does go right, you're like on top of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is rare, but
yeah. Right. Okay. All right.
Usually there's like something that's going to come up that you weren't expecting, like in almost everyone.
That's right.
Hopefully it's something small, but usually there's going to be something that comes up that shocks you and you're like, I didn't know that was going to happen. But that kind of goes back to planning for the worst case scenario, knowing that things may be a little bit, you may have to spend extra money in the renovation or something like that. Right. I'd say.
Yeah. Do you see any similarities with running your insurance company and running a flipping business? Off the cuff questions,
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not really, honestly, because it is a lot different. Like with the flipping business, we don't have employees. We just have contractors who we work with. Whereas in the insurance business, we have employees, and we don't have customers the same way.
Right. Just way different.
I mean, they both have problems, but that's it.
Yeah. Everything's got problems.
Yeah, everything's
got
problems.
Okay, so what other things that you may have thought about while we're chatting that you say, you know what, I should have put this on there? Do you have anything like that? Maybe the last minute stuff you want to throw in there? Because if not, I got some questions.
Okay, you go with your questions. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. I'm trying to think of like problems we've run into that, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all good. All right, so what do you believe separates excellent from average?
Quality of work in flipping. Yeah, quality of work. I mean, I'll go to a showing that was a house that was flipped, and I'll come back and tell Hayes like, ooh, I don't know who flipped that one. That is, they left a lot of stuff undone or didn't do this or that we do. Hayes is so he's the one that's looking at the renovations all the time and monitoring it, and he's very detail oriented. He'll be like, that vent should not be there, move that vent over here, like small things that you wouldn't even think would matter, but and so I'd say like definitely the quality of work is huge.
Yeah, y'all are known for y'all's quality too. Like people know when they're in your flip,
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean it speaks for itself.
I like to think so. Yeah, no, we don't cut too many corners at all. Even one thing that Hayes and I always disagree on is he always wants to redo all the outlets in the houses. So like have the electrician actually like redo the outlets so they're like perfectly white. Because a lot of houses are old and like there'll be a little
yellow,
yellowy. And I'm like, that's $2,000 for the whole house. And we do it every time. Yeah.
Yo, you need someone like that though, because like I'm your mindset. So if there was like an us two project, like going on a project, it would just be like, we're making money, but it looks like shit. It does not look good. So I mean, I think you need that. I know that we run yellow outlets because we're running more of a rental business instead of a flip business. The flip business is like, it's got to look HGTV,
Yeah.
It's got to look good.
Yeah, I mean, and especially, you want to pay attention to your market. So if you're flipping a house that you're going to resell for $150, then you don't need to put as much attention to detail necessarily as you are if you're selling a house that's going to be $350. That people are expecting a certain quality, and understandably so. So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to your buyers, who your buyers are, and appealing to those buyers. So.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Do you have a favorite failure or like a trip up point that you believe has set you guys up for success?
Well, we already talked about the square footage one. I think because I feel like that's like the biggest failure. We have had a lot of like learning experiences. Like we had one flip that was a tax foreclosure, and the rules in North Carolina, like the house, we couldn't resell it for a year.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's just because the title companies wouldn't insure it. So they couldn't get title insurance on it. So we ended up being under contract with the buyers for like 5 months until we were at the year point. Because I guess there's something where the person who lost the house could try to appeal it for a certain time period, and the title companies don't want to insure it. And so that's one project that comes to mind. But it still ended up working out great for us, still like made great profit on it, but who knew? We didn't. Yeah, I feel like we hear about people buying those tax foreclosures all the time, and nobody else had ever heard of this problem we were having. But yeah, so we had to wait a full year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think it's interesting you brought back up square footage too. It's just showing how important that is.
Well, the tax records are just so inaccurate.
Right.
I don't know. People rely on that a lot, and that's what we did, but you really, really, really can't.
Right.
So now in this market, price per square foot is not as like exact, but this was, 2 years ago when it was more looking at price per square foot and the prices were lower per square foot and all of that. So it would have been a stretch to list at what we wanted to list at when we were 300 square feet less than we thought. So,
right. What have you gotten better to saying no to in a flip?
Saying no to? What do you mean?
Like what has come up that you found yourself saying yes to certain things, but now it is a hard no? What have you gotten better saying no to while running this?
Okay.
That didn't explain it a little bit.
I mean, I don't know necessarily what we've gotten better at, like saying no to. I think that like our criteria have changed when we're looking at like buying a house. I don't know if that's really like answering your question, but like our criteria of what we're looking for, the kind of houses we've learned, what appeals better to buyers. People are not as they don't like a split level house quite as much as the other kind of house, or ranch might appeal to people a little bit better than a different layout. And so I think we've learned things like that.
Right.
So maybe in terms of like what we're actually going to buy, but I don't know if that nothing like you're talking about like some specific renovation piece that we are saying no to. Is that what you're
No,
asking?
I mean, it sounds like you answered my question, right? You're not saying yes to all the deals that come across your plate. Right. You've gotten a little bit better at saying no to deals that are across your plate because you found a product that sells a lot better within this market.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Two more questions. I'm going to wrap this thing up. All right. All right. So what is a purchase of less than $100 that has most improved your life? You're like, what the?
Less than $100 that has most improved my life. Yikes. Okay.
You're like, I hate
all right. I'd say it was actually a gift, but I think like my Kindle is good because then I read like tons of books on there and stuff.
Right.
And just I think it's like $90 or something, so it's close to 100. But yeah.
What are you reading right now?
I am reading I'm reading a couple different books actually, because I'll sometimes like read one and then I'm like, eh.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
Yeah, I'm reading a couple different ones. Trying to think of the names. Yeah, that's a good question.
What is it about?
So I'm reading. Oh, I am reading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, okay.
Also, I am reading one that's like Sold on a Monday. It's just about like a publisher. And then I usually will read like some mystery and just other stuff that's like not necessarily educational, but
right.
Just mix it up a little bit. So
right. How far are you in the Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I'm like halfway through.
Yeah. Is it stuff you feel like you already know?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it, but it's still like an interesting read.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have it on the bookshelf over here too, but I'm reading on my Kindle.
Right. It's just, it could be a good refresher too. And then last question, what question do you have for me? Since I've been beating you up with questions the whole time.
Okay. Is
there a question that you might have for me?
When are you going to flip a house?
And then sell it?
Yeah.
Because we're flipping. We're just
I know. You're renting, right?
Yeah.
You said that you were thinking about flipping like last year, right?
Yeah, that was one of our. We'll break down 3 things we're going to look at to do for the next year. That was one of them, but we didn't pull the trigger on that. We pulled the trigger on something else. I don't know if I would. I don't know. That's I don't want to say never, but there's something about a property that cash flows.
Yeah.
That I just enjoy, and the equity. So you become your own bank after a while, right? Like you have all these properties and all this equity. You can just pull. You can get your own loans because you are your own loan, essentially, right? So I love that. I love that it increases net worth. There's That's a hard one. I don't want to say never, but I'm like 95% sure I won't flip. I like the buy and hold side. I love the buy and hold side. Was there anything else you want to throw at, because people watch this later, they watch the recording. Is there anything you want to throw out there before wrapping this bad boy up?
Not really. I mean, I'd say for anybody that is like thinking about flipping, the hardest part is like buying the first one. So I'd say like just go for it. You know, and that's like the hardest thing is like being like, is this the one? And then you're like overanalyzing everything and looking at it from all corners, and you're scared to pull the trigger, but just do it. Yeah. And then best way to learn is by doing. So.
Right. If you have any questions, where can they find you, Aleka? Where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram.
What else?
Yeah, and I'm on Facebook. Aleka McDowell or Aleka McDowell with EXP Realty. I have the page for that. And then we do have, for our flipping, we do have a page that is McDowell Enterprise. But we don't post a whole bunch. I'm not the best at that. You're good at that. Posting on social media and everything. But I have posted some like before and afters before, but definitely not all of them up there. But yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So reach out if you guys do have any questions or anything like that. I'm going to go and wrap this thing up. Stay on. Don't jump off just yet, but I'm about to end the broadcast.
Okay.
Bye-bye.